Nintendo just announced a brand new Legend of Zelda game, and it's one that's been rumored very heavily the last couple of weeks, and yes, it's finally coming to truth. It's a top-down 2D Zelda experience, but this time we are playing as Princess Zelda. Link needs our help, and this is a completely new style of Zelda game that we've really never seen before. But of course, there's a lot of things going on in this trailer that odds are a lot of you also missed. So, without further ado, we are about to dive into every little nook and cranny, finding all the little facts and secrets that you missed within the brand new trailer for The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and before we get started, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy everything Zelda, because we're going to be talking about this game a lot. But let's dive into the trailer. Trailer immediately starts off with Link rushing in with a blue robe over him and a hood where you can't even see his face. He uses a spin attack to take out 3 dark nuts guarding a final chamber. Link is holding the Hylian shield and also a new sword. It seems to be a basic white sword, as it does not look like the Master Sword. It's not purple, doesn't have the crystal or any symbols on it, and as you can tell, even with a game like Link Between Worlds, even the Master Sword would be very noticeable from this standpoint. Yes, this is very weird, as it looks like this is the end of the game where Link is defeating Ganon to save Princess Zelda. Not to mention the fact that Link is wearing a weird blue robe, and it has some type of weird light blue symbol on the back, and Link has never worn anything like this except for games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Clearly, this game isn't some type of reimagining of those games either. This seems to be a completely unique experience. Or is it? Link makes it into the final chamber room where he finds Princess Zelda imprisoned in a crystal. This is definitely not the first time we've seen Zelda imprisoned in a crystal. We've seen so at the end of Ocarina of Time, even the end of Four Swords, and yes, towards the middle of Skyward Sword. I've seen a lot of people online think that this is an alternate ending from Link Between Worlds. Now, the only problem with this is that Link actually fights Argonym up on a balcony before dropping down to fight Ganon. Clearly, these are not the same two scenes, and rather, this seems to be a completely new original Zelda experience that just pretty much skipped the entire Link experience. Like, we're now just skipping straight to the end, where Zelda is now a playable character and something happens to Link as he's taken away in a dark void. This all seems to happen because of Ganon's staff, so maybe Ganon isn't even the main antagonist of this story. It's whatever evil ancient power that's inside of his staff that's causing these rifts to appear in the first place, as the immediate one that appears takes Link away and Zelda hurry up and escapes the chamber. This void that appears seems to take everything to a weird space-time continuum, a weird distortion in space where floating islands and objects all get warped there. In fact, we'll even see Zelda experience that zone later, but Zelda runs out over a cliff all Breath of the Wild style to see the entire kingdom of Hyrule. This is where a lot of people online are drawing similarities between this map and the map of Link to the Past, where they do look a lot alike. Hyrule Castle is over to the left, central Hyrule, and you can see right to the right of it are those weird mounds, and the water area at the bottom right of the map where Zelda is currently standing. Even the little cave entrance is still there. I mean, you can even see the area to the east that looks like the Eastern Palace dungeon, in the area where Sahasrar's hideout was. Everything looks pretty similar, but there is an inclusion of what looks like to be a giant Death Mountain volcano at the top left where the Lost Woods would be, but yes, even like the Spectacle Rock area and the giant mountain ranges is still to the north. This looks like to be either a reimagining of Link to the Past's story, just simply inspiration drawn from A Link to the Past, and they just made a new world that looked very similar to it, since a lot of fans always have wanted to go back to that kingdom. If we go back, we can once again see that entrance. There seems to be some entrance to a cave, and there seems to be some type of shell or statue with holes in it on the outside. You can also see an area that looks like it might home a dungeon, where it looks like there's lots of statues by an entrance of a door up there with tons of stairs leading up to it, and also stairs at the very front with an archway before you get into that region. Once again, we have the area with tons of mounds, but this time they look like giant boulders, very similar to Link to the Past, and we see another section with a tunnel or cave entrance all the way to the back right. The next image, we can see a cave that's covered by rocks, and you probably had to blow it up with a bomb or something. An area just to the west of the castle that has tons of ancient looking pillars. Of course, we have Hyrule Castle, and we can even see Castle Town out in the front, and it looks like we'll be able to fully explore that area, of course, which I always love exploring Hyrule Castle, even though it's always in ruins in games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I like the modern castle, and being able to walk around it is awesome. If you really squint behind the castle, you'll see a giant fenced-in area with a giant gate and tons of pine trees blocking something off. Now, this actually looks like a graveyard to me, and even stairs that lead up to that giant gate. It reminds me a lot of, once again, Link to the Past that also had a graveyard directly north of Hyrule Castle Town. We also once again have that giant mountain range to the north, but this one honestly looks more snow-like. You can see kind of snow or at least white chalky rocky mountains on the platforms, and it looks like the pine trees could be covered in a layer of snow as you go higher up. We have a new looking Death Mountain, which is actually in a completely different location and actually features a active looking volcano, and you can even see there seems to be some type of giant gate or door leading into the side of the volcano, which probably is another dungeon. What's also interesting is we've never seen Gorons in Link to the Past, so maybe this is where we actually can see them, and this is going to be one of the few differences between the two maps, because we've only seen them in Oracle of Ages and also Minish Cap as far as classic Zeldas go, so this would be pretty cool. Okay, enough about the overworld map, let's dig deeper into the trailers. So these rifts are appearing all over Hyrule, and it's actually sucking people's homes and even people themselves into these things. We know that Link has already fallen into one of them. You can see the Hyrule crest with the Triforce symbol on the water fountain, and you can see one of these homes just engulfed in this rift. You can also see a little birdie statue where you're probably able to save and maybe even warp yourself to new locations, and you can obviously see a well. It wouldn't be a 2D Zelda game without a well to jump into. Then you have a building that's open that seems to be a schoolhouse, a church, or maybe an armory, where the front actually kind of looks like a silver shield, so maybe that's exactly what it is, an armory. This next area might be near a Zora's domain, as we can see lots of water, including two shacks up in the water above, where one of them actually has a bag symbol, which could be a shop for you to visit, but they look like pineapple houses sitting in the ocean. No, not SpongeBob. But yeah, I'm guessing it's one of the two Zora races, as we know both of them are going to be in this game. Zelda meets a fairy, apparently in a dungeon? Why is she locked up in a dungeon cell? Well, it's hard to say. I don't think she would be down here because of her own guards, would she? I really don't know what's going on here. Maybe she went down here because she went to visit somebody, or maybe somehow the guards are corrupt by some ancient evil and they put her down there, but this is actually where she meets the fairy and probably is able to escape thanks to this fairy. But you can also see that at the end, Zelda is wearing this same robe and hood that Link was wearing when he first got sucked into this stuff. So maybe she grabbed the robe on the way out before it got sucked into the void as well, or maybe she has her own from the castle. I'm thinking it's the former. It makes more sense unless there's some type of new ancient robe that all the royal family wears or something, kind of like Breath of the Wild again, like the champion's tunic, but she probably just picked up Link's. I also wonder if she's wearing this in order to hide her face from the guards for some reason. Maybe they locked her up for one reason or another and she's hiding from them by wearing this. Probably not. I don't know. The jail thing still is kind of throwing me off, and I really don't know why she was down in there. Fairy actually gives Zelda a magical staff, which allows her to make an echo of pretty much anything in the game, or at least a lot of the different objects in the game, where she can pretty much copy them and place them anywhere in the overworld. You can see Zelda placing tables all over the overworld, but you can also see she has a mini-map at the bottom right that shows her location, and it also shows lots of other things. It seems to also show the location of the purple rifts, and also the trees? Well, you might ask, why is this a thing? Well, it's because in this game, and I think one of the very first top-down 2D Zelda games ever, you're able to walk on top of the trees and bushes in this game. Because deep into the trailer, we see Zelda stack some objects, including a trampoline, to jump on top of these giant trees in this rainforest, and then she's able to jump into the other tree that's part of the natural landscape. So yeah, this is going to change up a lot of how this game plays, because we were never able to do this before. This next area, you'll see Zelda has to stack up some objects in order to get to the top of the mountain. You'll see her pass one of those weird shell-like rocks again with the glowing holes, but this one's actually glowing with yellow aura coming out of it. Once again, I feel like this might be like a save area or a teleportation area, and it's even marked as a yellow glowing icon on the map. Yes, you can see a cave with two torches lit to the bottom right. Then see Zelda in a new type of village, and there's a house with flowers and a cat on top. You'll probably have to go up to the cat for some type of side quest. Another glowing rock, which once again is my theory of a save station or some type of way to get into a specific inventory or maybe even teleport. And we see some townsfolk, including a little farm village with a gate. You'll probably have to help her find cuckoos around the entire world and bring them back or something. Like, there's always a mission like that. Now you'll see Princess Zelda finally enter one of these voids, it looks like, as the entire background is all warpy purples and pinks, and you can even tell that everything's floating on its own little islands. And it seems like maybe you're able to enter some of these voids in order to do little tiny, maybe mini dungeons, almost like shrines from Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, where you can see lots of things that's been sucked in, like ships and pieces of land, houses and trees and rivers, where you can actually use all all your different echoes in order to make paths across and find out how to get to the end. And you can even see Princess Zelda can't even make an echo of a cube of water, which is pretty interesting. I want to stop for a second and tell you why this mechanic is so interesting for this game, because if there are dungeons, a lot of people were probably wondering how is this going to work if there's no like real items or anything to collect, and how is Princess Zelda going to fight? Well, each dungeon can be very, very different depending on the type of objects that's in that dungeon, because you can make echoes of only specific items that you can only get from that dungeon that you're in, which will give every single dungeon a little bit more unique variety compared to the last, which is pretty cool, because maybe in one dungeon you can like have echoes of weapons and creatures, where in another one it's just like water blocks or sand blocks, and I think that's going to go a long way when it comes to dungeon variety. Here you can see Zelda actually using the water block and stacking more upon more upon more in order to make a vertical line of water blocks so she can swim pretty much all the way up the mountain, which is a pretty cool thing. You can see she comes up on a wall that's actually got broken rocks, which if you've ever played a Zelda game, you gotta bomb it. We reached a new area where Zelda needs to use an echo to stop the wind from blowing her off the path. And you can see she has a long list of echoes, including a wooden crate, some type of wooden table, a decorative shrub, a mini trampoline, a bed, a picket sign for some reason, a rock, another rock or some sort of hard plant or seed, and a jar. Now, if this doesn't remind you of Tears of the Kingdom, I don't know what does. Now, you're able to also sort them very similar in Tears of the Kingdom, and it looks like there's 5 different ways you can sort them. You also have a notebook you can open up, which I'm not 100% sure what that is going to entail. Maybe it's just more of a wider view of everything instead of looking at it across a horizontal row. For instance, if there's a very specific echo that you need and there's just too many, I mean, Aonuma even stated that even still to this day, he doesn't know how many echoes are in this game, that he just keeps finding more. So yeah, this game probably has endless possibilities. It probably ends, but you know, most people aren't going to find them anytime soon. Yes, but Zelda uses the echoes in order to place things down, like a crate to jump over the gust of wind, or the decorative shrub in order to just block the wind altogether. And there's a couple of shining blue jars to the top left that she'll probably be able to break open. We then get a desert region, which would be new for Link to the Past, as this looks like Gerudo Desert, which we haven't had that before, where Zelda places 3 beds and a trampoline to get over the walls, which looks to be like Gerudo Town, where obviously there's walls all the way around the city and no men can enter. But I don't know why they're not letting Zelda just enter through the front door unless the Gerudo are more antagonists this time around, very similar to Ocarina of Time. In fact, if you look at the left side of the screen, you can even see a Gerudo woman wearing a mask standing beside a palm tree. So this is definitely Gerudo Town, but why does Zelda have to sneak in? That's the question. And also, if there are Gerudo, could there actually be a chance we could see a finally top-down 2D Zelda version of Ganondorf? Maybe. Not only can we once again see that glow rock at the front of the Gerudo Desert, but we can also see a yellow glowing beacon to the east, which probably resembles where Zelda needs to go. Looks like Zelda will only be able to fight using echoes, as she makes an echo of a rock and picks it up and throws it at the Boreblin, and when she defeats him, she's actually able to use an echo of the Boreblin, where then she places down 2 Boreblins of her own to fight for her. It looks like you can place down as many as you want, but you have to have enough echo triangles, I guess you can say. If you look at the fairy, she has little triangles that follow her hair and a tail, and it looks like each Boreblin costs 2 triangles in order to place down, as she places 2 on one and 2 down for the other. Or for the rock, it only needed 1 triangle, so probably the stronger enemies or maybe even mini bosses that you can place down might cost more triangles. No, this means you won't be able to place down like 100 beds and do like the 100 bed challenge or something like that. As you can see, even the beds have 1 triangle apiece. We even see rupees make a return, as we see some green ones, and we see them take out what looks like a choo-choo, but probably a green Zol, as these enemy designs seem to be based off of Link's Awakening. Also, you can see at the top right that the Boreblin icon has 2 triangles above it, meaning that you need at least 2 triangles in order to use them. I'd be willing to bet that there's upgrades to get more based on finishing dungeons or maybe finding certain fairy fountain type of things. Also, when all the enemies get defeated, you can see one of the Boreblins get confused as to what to do next. Next scene, we have a crab, which I believe is just called a sand crab from Link's Awakening, but we see Zelda place down an enemy of her own and rides it into him. It seems to be one of those spike traps that you find when you go into a dungeon and you enter a room and it only moves as you get close to it. But it shows that some of the enemies that she can actually use as an echo, she can actually ride or interact with. Right before she hits the wall, it looks like either the enemy or Zelda herself reacts with some exclamation marks or tags above her head, turn or warning her that it's about to hit a wall and it can't move once it hits a wall, like maybe it only goes in straight lines. Also know that this spinner only takes 1 triangle to use, and far off on the water on a little island, we can can see one of the sea urchin enemies once again from Link's Awakening. Next up, we can see Zelda swimming underwater, and there seems to be 3 new types of fish. Well, this fish actually appeared in one Zelda game, well, at least one mainline, and this is the bombfish from Twilight Princess. So it's pretty weird to see them here. They were also in Hyrule Warriors Legends, so yeah, this is just a weird enemy to see return. Zelda also summons an anglerfly fish to attack the other bombfish in the water, and you can also see she has an own water-air breathing meter herself, so when that runs out, she definitely needs to get out. In this scene, Zelda has to take out some crows, and in order to do so, she gets the attention of the crows by placing a meat echo, which is weird, but it only costs 1 triangle to place the meat down, and then she places down a Deku Baba plant in order to attack the crows when they get near, which costs 2 triangles. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of planning and plotting when it comes to taking out enemies instead of just running up and blindly swinging your sword. You can also barely see something that's purple up on the tree to the north, and you'll probably either need to bump it with something or stack something up in order to get up there. It looks like there's going to be a lot of verticality in this game thanks to the echoes and being able to stack things. You then see Zelda running away from a gigantic void that's coming to consume her. Zelda then comes up on a Boreblin camp where then she has a wind-up Octorok toy that she actually winds up and places on her head, where it's actually able to aim and shoot at the Boreblins as she moves it around, as it shoots these rocks at them that explode. Probably after taking out all the Boreblins, you'll gain access to the treasure chest at the top. And on second inspection, it looks like these rocks seem to be exploding fireworks, as you can see the colors blast out of them, and the Boreblin actually catch on fire and start to run away. This next scene looks like it can maybe be inside Death Mountain, and maybe some type of fire temple or dungeon, where Zelda actually has a bird that she's actually able to grab onto and glide across the lava pits. And this bird seems to be an interactable enemy, as it is costing 1 triangle above the bird's head. We know that this bird is an echo that Zelda uses. Zelda then runs into what looks like to be some type of old scientist, as he has lots of machinery and food all over the place inside of his home. And what's very interesting is it kind of reminds me of the Sheikah a little bit. From his robes to his little straw hat that reminds me of that of the Sheikah from Breath of the Wild, and even his lamp in the background that kind of looks like a Sheikah eye. In fact, in the next scene, we see an old woman with the same colored hair ties as the old man actually do quick dash attacks in order to take out the guards. My theory is something happened in Hyrule Castle, probably corrupting the guards once again that had them imprison Princess Zelda, and maybe the Sheikah tribe actually helped to get Zelda back and escape her from her imprisonment, which would mean this is the first time we've ever had the Sheikah tribe in a 2D Zelda game. Also a very important scene where we see 2 different tribes of Zora. The classic Zora from the classic Zelda games like Link to the Past and the original Legend of Zelda, the new modern style of Zoras on the right, where originally the Zora actually attacked Link as an enemy, which is the left side. So this is very interesting, where it looks like we have the Zora King on the left and a Zora Queen on the right. How are they both in this world together in different forms? Maybe there's just 2 different tribes in this game, or maybe something a lot bigger. What if all of these cameos of these random characters and enemies across different Zelda games, as we've seen some from Twilight Princess, some from other games like Link's Awakening and even Link to the Past, maybe this game is a combination of different Zeldas. Maybe these rifts are actually bringing in characters and enemies from across the various different timelines. That would be kind of crazy, but I've seen crazier things happen in Zelda. And shoot, we even randomly have the business scrub from Majora's Mask. Like, what is he doing in this game? So yeah, I really feel like it's some type of timeline thing, or maybe Nintendo just wanted to make a 2D Zelda game full of characters that have never been in 2D before. Who knows? I mean, shoot, we even get to see the Great Deku Tree, who only appeared in Ocarina of Time, The Wind Waker, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom. Never in a 2D Zelda game before, so what is going on? We then see a scene of Zelda swimming away from a giant underwater whirlpool, and it seems to be some new jellyfish enemies that are in front of her, creating electrical aura orbs around them. You can also see some type of new giant eel or sea dragon behind her in the background swimming as well, which is probably some type of mini boss or maybe even main boss of the area. In this room, Zelda seems to be getting ready to fight a boss, and what's interesting about this room is it looks very similar to the final chamber where Zelda actually was imprisoned and Link came in and saved her and actually was taken away by a portal. Now, it doesn't look like the same exact room, as it's slightly different, but it still has the same designs written all over the walls. So maybe this is just what all the boss rooms look like in the game, and this is where Link fought all the bosses throughout his entire adventure. So maybe Zelda's actually going through the same dungeons that Link did, but they're different for her, which we wouldn't know because this is just an entire game where we didn't get to even see Link's adventure. Maybe the bosses that Link defeated are being revived and Zelda has to take them out, or maybe there are some type of new creatures altogether that are forming thanks to Ganondorf Ganon's staff. So odds are this is the end of a dungeon and Zelda has to fight some type of giant rock-looking boss creature. You can also see purple sparks in the air in this room, kind of signifying that maybe this is due to the magic of the staff. You then get to see a couple more echoes before the trailer ends. For instance, Zelda uses an echo of this sign for some reason. I can't wait to see what this is going to be used for. Then see Zelda create an echo of what looks like to be a wind cannon, or maybe it's going to shoot a flame and that's the smoke that comes out after the flame, but it's definitely a cannon nevertheless, which once again seems like something that she might only be able to get in this specific dungeon, making dungeons very unique from one another, where we're not just using an item in the dungeon, we're actually using the mechanics of the dungeon to our own advantage. She then makes an echo of a sea urchin out on the beach. We then see Zelda create an echo of what looks like to be a Lizalfos enemy, which we have never seen once again in a 2D Zelda game. It also kind of looks like a crocodile in this game, as it has two teeth coming down from its top lip. Just like Link's Awakening, we then get a 2D section where we see these new spiders with these squiggly sad faces on their bodies, which could be new forms of Skulltulas, maybe baby Skulltulas. As you can see, to get across, Zelda actually has to spawn these spiders, and each of them cost 2 triangles, which will probably take away the last one as she continues down her path, and she can actually climb on their webs as they dangle down. You then get to see a room full of water with a giant gate, and beneath the water you can see there's a crate covering a hole in the gate that you can probably swim down to, but Zelda's actually placing beds in order to climb up like a ladder to the tall pillar in the middle of the water. You then see Zelda use an echo of a pea hat, what looks like to be at the top of Death Mountain, as she rides it all the way down. This one actually takes 3 triangles, which makes it probably one of the stronger enemies in order to conjure up. Now you can also see she could probably climb that mountain, as it has a little rock texture on the side of the mountain, which is probably going to be the case. We've always had that in 2D Zelda games, so it just makes sense here. We then see Zelda using this brand new white Zol or gel enemy that seems to be like a white candle, as it has its wick fused, and when Zelda throws it, it sets everything on fire in the field, including the tall grass. And when she throws it, you can also see the reactions of the enemies as they see it hurling towards them, as they get scared and freaked out, like the snake does in the tall grass. And for the final scene, we can see Zelda entering an enemy camp of Borblins and Moblins, where she's actually holding a Redead enemy, and she's able to throw it with 3 triangles, and it uses its scream in order to pause every single enemy in the camp. Now this Redead design looks very similar to that of the ones from Triforce Heroes. Instead of a blue mask, it has a red mask, and it actually walks with feet instead of soaking into the ground. And finally, we get the actual cover art for what the game looks like, and you can see the snow mountains in the background with the volcano as well, and even a windmill. So maybe there's some type of windmill village very similar to Kakariko Village, which would further help my theory of there being actual Sheikah tribes in this game. You can also see a buried treasure chest in the ground, actual Octorok enemy this time around, a flying pea hat, and also a heart piece that's on a pedestal. Obviously Link and Ganon once again, so it makes me think that maybe Link and Ganon still have a bigger role than we think, and we haven't seen the last of them. Maybe Zelda finally gets to go into this void and actually has to rescue Link this time around and fight Ganon herself. Maybe all of this evil and all the voids opening up is still from Ganon, or like I said, maybe Ganondorf. Now those are all the details that you probably missed from the brand new trailer of The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. If you guys found any other details that I may have glossed over, definitely let me know in the comments down below, and stop what you're doing. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you learned something new today before you head out, and until next time, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya guys.